let's get to Tyreek Hill's body camera footage. Tyreek Hill is a controversial figure for many reasons. He himself has I would say, been in the crosshairs of legal scrutiny, the criminal justice system, and has been able to get away with it. But in this circumstance, regardless of his background, he is still a victim to police brutality. On the one hand, he himself has, has done a bunch of, but that doesn't really matter in this circumstance. The cops have once again managed to make Tyreek Hill a sympathetic figure. Of course, let's take a look. Tyreek Hill is he a running back or wide receiver for the Dolphins? He's very fast. I think he's a running back, right? Or he's a wide receiver. Okay, my bad. He's not a running back. He's a wide receiver for the Dolphins. You might, if you're not super familiar with him, you might remember iShowSpeed challenged him, and he actually, in the most cowardly way, did not take up that challenge. He played running back in college though, but he's a wide receiver. So he just got a massive contract. Anyway, he is on his way to the Dolphins game in his McLaren. Now, if you know anything about Florida, what he did to get pulled over, which was officially going, I believe, 20 miles over the legal speed limit. Like, I think he was going 50 and a 35 or something. Or no, not even. I don't know the exact details, but he was going faster than expected. But if you know anything, I heard it was 100 miles and a 45. No. He wasn't. No, it wasn't that much. I think he was going 60 and a 50. He's going 60 and a 40, 55 and a 40. Okay. They listed visual estimation of 60 miles per hour. Okay. It wasn't like genuinely above the speed limit. Like, it wasn't like crazy above the speed limit. He was going 250 in a school zone. Okay. Everybody's lying. I don't even think that they actually clocked them. But the point is this: if you know anything about Miami-Dade or Florida driving, going 10 to 20 miles over the legal speed limit is completely meaningless. I'm sorry. I used to drive in Miami. I lived in Miami. You're out of your dang mind if you think. You're out of your dang mind if you think that, like, people aren't doing that shit willy-nilly, okay? They probably wanted to stop him because they were like, sir, you're not drunk. It seems like you're not drunk while you're driving. We have to arrest you. It's illegal in Florida. Florida drivers are the absolute worst motherfuckers on the planet, okay? The absolute worst drivers, bar none. The police estimation was that he was going 60 miles an hour. Okay, so I don't know where people are coming from. Here's the traffic citation. This is from Tom Pelissero from the NFL Network. Careless driving citation for Tyreek Deshaun Hill. This carries what is a civil penalty, $179. The reason why I'm telling you all this is because I need you to understand something. Like, what you're about to watch is just, seatbelt violation by driver. They tried to throw the kitchen sink at him, it seems. Okay. Careless driving via the Miami-Dade Police Department. Here are the citations received by Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill, whom police estimated was traveling at 60 miles an hour. So when people say he's going 100 miles an hour, know that that's. But here, this is the available video from the body camera footage where you can't really tell how fast he's going, I guess. But this is when they first clock him and want to pull him over. Okay, so that's did you see that? Here. That's his car. Okay? Right outside the stadium. Okay, definitely going like faster than the other cars for sure, but not like significantly faster. Okay, the reason why I spent so much goddamn time on this is because I need you to watch how the cops react to this egregious crime.
Have your seatbelt on? Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Why what? Why you have it up?
Okay.
Hey. window down. Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car. As a matter of fact, get out of the car. Give me your ass, bro. Get out of the car. Give me your ass, bro. Break that freaking window. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Listen. You can't. The most egregious crime, okay? The most egregious crime here is not even the fact that he's doing a DWB, driving while black. Okay? He's doing a DWB, driving while black, and not abiding by the authority and sucking the of every cop in the immediate vicinity. Okay? You can't do that. That is a severe escalation, okay? That right there, it's over. It's done. It is incredible, dude. It is incredible that he hurt the feelings of cops by rolling the window back up. Okay? It's not like he is refusing to comply. He is complying. He gave his license and then rolled the window back up.
Right now. We're not playing this game.
This guy literally goes, if you don't roll your window down right now, I'm going to. Yeah, they have his ID. They know who he is. They know there is a football game that he's trying to get to. Okay? They know who he is. They know what's going on here. They're not like, they're not like, oh, this is a random dude. Okay?
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
He says he's getting out.
What you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin. When we tell you to do something, you do it. You understand? I'm getting out, you understand? Not what you want, but what we...
He's talking to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent.
You're a little confused. I'm getting out, bro. Too late. Chill, bro. Too late. All right, bro. Take
Too late.
Chill, bro. Do what you got to do, bro. We are. We will. Good, bro. It is good. Hey, Drew, hey. Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. You stop crying. Bro, y'all. Don't move. Good. Bro, you beating on my window like you crazy.
I'd love to see his tats, by the way. I wonder why. You rarely ever see a cop wearing sleeves like that. Maybe because he's on a motorcycle, or maybe because he's real tatted up. I wonder what kind of tattoos he's got. Love to see that. Roid raging ass cops, dude. God damn, the real gang, dude. This is actual gang, okay?
You set him up. Why y'all beating on my window like y'all crazy for?
You know his ass got a bunch of Hindu symbols. You know what I mean?
Bro, dude beating on my window like he crazy. I ain't do nothing, twin. Dang.
Hey, don't park there. Don't park there.
Hey. Hold on, bro. I just had surgery on my knee. Bro. I just had surgery on my knee, bro. I just had surgery in your ears when we go there. Chill, bro. Hey, Joe New, bro. Back up. Hey, call Drew.
Uh-oh. You got other scary big black guys showing up. His teammates are there too. So his teammates stop because they're also on the way to the game. And they walk up there and they're like, what are you guys doing?
Call Drew. Hey, call Drew. Call Drew, bro. Hey, call Drew, bro. Hey, what? Hey, call Drew, bro. Just call Drew. Hey.
Other football players are Jonnu Smith and Calais Campbell, who also later got detained by the police. Nice.
What am I doing that's wrong?
Hey, listen.
Hey, listen. Hey, man, they got Tyreek. The cops over here beating on him, man. They over here beating on Tyreek,
Listen, big man. Don't park there, man. Just get in
Hey,
the car.
Hey, Drew, you gotta come, man.
Just get in the car.
Straight up the side, on the side of the,
Hey, get in the car.
Yeah, chill me,
You're
Amo.
parked in the middle of the street.
I'm in the car. You gotta go before you get a ticket.
Hey,
I'm
you're
not
in the car.
Who's the driver? This is my... All right,
Okay.
all right, I'll take that. You gotta move right now. Let me have your license.
One of his teammates is Calais Campbell, who's like a 15-year player and has won community awards and is a great guy.
I'm coming. Let me have your license. Let me have your license. I'm leaving. I'm not playing. Let me have your license. Your license right now.
He's like, yep, you're getting arrested too, baby. Guess what, dude? You're also black. And also, hurting my feelings. And that is the biggest crime of all. Okay. You cannot be a black person in the vicinity of a cop and demanding justice or answers, because that hurts the cop's feelings. Okay. They do this to white people too, of course. Make no mistake. They do this to everybody. These cops are some of the most entitled man children on the planet. Okay. Society, much like Israel, okay, has kept telling them over and over again, no, it's okay to be this way. You can be this way all day, every day, baby. If anybody dares piss you off, beat the shit out of them. Okay. There's no rules. There's no accountability. You can power trip. It's a part of your job. It's a part of the best part of your job, actually. You know, we've taught them all the wrong lessons. Why else would they behave any differently? Judging many on one wrong situation? Yeah, dude. Being a police is not like a racial thing. You understand that, right? It's a job. And if your job across the board gives you this level of power over people, if your job is to be able to deny people their freedoms, for example, it's in your job description. And also in every interaction that you're having with people, you have to enforce your authority. Okay. One wrong situation is also delusional, by the way. Do you know how many instances like this happen on a daily goddamn basis? The only reason why you heard about this, the only reason why you're seeing it is because they're doing it to a very famous person. That's crazy that this motherfucker has the audacity to be like, one wrong situation and you're judging everybody. No, dude, I'm judging the job description. Okay. Like across the board, the way policing works is inherently okay. I'm not saying that there is no necessity for like some mechanism of law enforcement. Okay. In theory, I understand it. Obviously, I recognize it. In order to keep society functioning normally, you need like the presence of law and order, okay, and enforcers of law and order. The issue here, especially in the United States of America, however, is that it is completely like we've given them maximum power, no restrictions, no regulation, no accountability. It is literally not like it is illegal to have a mechanism of enforcement. So of course they get this way. Giving a gun to these psychopaths is insane. And one presidential candidate wants to give them even more immunity. You mean Kamala Harris?
Your license right now. You're not going to give me your license?
Donald Trump wants to give 100% immunity to cops, by the way. Dog, what more immunity can they have? They already have maximum immunity. Like, I don't even know. I genuinely don't even know how much more immunity you can give them. I don't know. I got extremely normie friends in fantasy football leagues who were talking about this. One of my homies said that's crazy. It happened to him. Players shouldn't be treated like that, which is awesome because obviously this shouldn't happen to anyone. But people seeing it happen to a rich, famous, and really good players opening up this convo, yeah. This is the type that gets normies pissed off, okay? Because they're their fantasy league. Like all of a sudden, this is personal for them. You know what I mean? They've seen Tyreek Hill run really fast, and to them, they're like, what the are you doing? It's something that we know already. It's something that we know in this community, at least, very well. This is something we've talked about quite a bit. Police brutality is the norm in this country. Police have no accountability whatsoever. Okay? Police also legally don't even have to save people, by the way. Like, the Supreme Court has ruled that they don't even have to legally put their bodies on the line to save a human being. Okay? Even the job description is false. America, on the other hand, though, is like above and beyond with this insanity. Like, it's so much worse than every other country. That's why, like, European chatters will sometimes be like, what? Like, your cops are insane. Police in other countries are shitty too, but god damn, we are a different breed out here, okay? And the reason why I say this is because of the way that this job is structured, okay? The way that this job is structured means that you need to be an enforcer of the rules, okay? You need to always have like a level of authority in every sort of circumstance. And if you don't train people on de-escalation, then of course, and you only train them on escalation, and then you also don't fucking turn around and enforce any sort of like regulation or accountability, then yeah, of course they're going to behave like this on a regular basis. A guy that does this willy-nilly in the middle of the Dolphins like opening game to their star wide receiver that just got like $140 million contract is doing it to everybody. Okay, you're out of your mind if you think this is a one-off. You have to be delusional if you think this is a one-off. You have to think that there's no 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour because it's 5 minutes into the top of the hour and you still haven't received it. No, they knew he was a player, chat. They knew. He did. Someone literally in the process says, oh, that's Tyreek Hill. The other guy has his ID. Remember, this body camera footage starts off with this cop with the window down. He gives his ID to the cop, and then he rolls the window back up. And then they get mad. They get big mad when he rolls his window up. Oh, God forbid you roll your window up. You can't do that. You can't do that. Isn't the cop Mexican, though? No, dog. He's in Florida. He's Cuban. There was no reason for this level of escalation at any point.
Your license?
Hey,
You're not going to give me your license?
I'm leaving.
Let me have your license. Your license right now.
Sir,
Hey, your license right now.
I'm leaving.
Or I'm going to lock you up. Your license right now.
He just told me to
Your
leave.
license right now.
Sir, he just-
You're dealing with me now.
Sir.
Your license right now.
Entitled little Nazis, dude. Straight up. Entitled little Nazis. I'm going to lock you up. You don't have that power. What do you mean you're going to lock him up? Except he does. Okay? Pissing me off is an offense that where I can literally take your life away. I can take your life away. I can take your freedoms away. Think about how easily he wields this power. This is a person who is not thinking about, this is a person who has no consequences for this kind of action. Okay? He knows that there's no consequences for this kind of action. This is a unimaginable level of authority and level of power that we have given these people, and they're wielding it with like this sense of entitlement where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna put you in jail if you piss me off. That's crazy. That's crazy. These dumb don't even have an inkling for self-preservation too, because they're doing this on the day where these guys are supposed to be playing football. These are public figures, beloved public figures that you're doing this to. How does it get to this? It only gets to this when they're like, yeah, what are you gonna do? I'll arrest you if you talk out of turn. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Anyway, then Tyreek did this after scoring a touchdown, by the way, which is pretty funny. Yeah, he ended up obviously playing in the game, played well as far as I understand, and even did this touchdown celebration, which I think he'll get punished for probably by the NFL. Like they'll hit him with a fine for this, I suspect. God forbid. And because it's Tyreek Hill, the police department obviously had to release a statement because remember, this is not just any random black man, okay? If it was any random black man, nobody would get. Let's be real, because it's the most expected.
Covered in the end zone, 20. It goes back first and 10 to a turnover by Law. Instead of the block, and he's going deep.
Put the Jets on. Statement from the Dolphins. We're saddened by the overly aggressive and violent conduct directed towards Tyreek Hill, Calais Campbell, and Jonnu Smith by police officers before yesterday's game. It is both maddening and heartbreaking to watch the very people we trust to protect our community use such unnecessary force and hostility towards these players. Yet it is also a reminder that not every situation like this ends in peace, as we are grateful this one did. What if I wasn't Tyreek Hill is a question that will carry with resounding impact. We are proud to have a strong and positive relationship with the Miami-Dade Police Department and other law enforcement agencies and recognize the vast majority of officers do serve the community with the utmost character and desire to protect all citizens. However, as is on full display in the videos released tonight, there are some officers who mistake their responsibility and commitment to serve a misguided power. Yeah, dude, it's a couple bad apples that are just like that and not the entire structure, especially when there's no mechanism of enforcement, no regulatory bodies that are even remotely interested in like stopping this kind of behavior. Meanwhile, this is what the Dolphins said. Here is what the Florida Police Benevolent Association said. As a personal attorney for Tyreek Hill, we would like to first thank all the fans, onlookers. Oh, this is the attorney for Tyreek Hill. This is his statement that he released. Mr. Hill's legal team is exploring all remedies that may be available to Mr. Hill, which, by the way, he has a ton. He could launch a civil suit against the Miami-Dade Police Department and sue them for hundreds of millions of dollars because, as it stands, when you arrest someone who is a famous football player who was worth hundreds of millions of dollars to a sports franchise that is worth billions of dollars, you are literally, you're the bag, you're revenue potentially because you're violently arresting a insured player. You could have genuinely You could have genuinely physically harmed him. You did physically harm him. You can't just get away with assaulting people. And this time, you fucked up. The funny thing is, of course, this happens all the time in significantly more egregious circumstances. And of course, taxpayers foot the bill, for the record, just so you know. You and I are paying for it. A decent chunk of that revenue, our taxable revenue, is going directly back to the police department so they can pay off these goddamn fines whenever they get sued.
It's been hard for me not to find myself more upset the more I think about it.
Here's the Dolphins head coach, Mike McDaniel, speaking on the Tyreek Hill and Calais Campbell detainments.
And that's because of, you know, my teammates and trying to put myself in that emotion or in that situation that they've described emotionally. And then knowing more than that, I think the thing that fucks me up, honestly, to be quite frank, is knowing that I don't know exactly, I don't know what that feels like. I think it's very, very important that that two things should be true. That you know, I think you let due process work and information to be gathered to appropriately project an opinion. However, that I can't get away from the fact of what I know their experience to be, and you know, you try to put yourself. If I'm Calais Campbell and I'm 38 years old, and you're going to work, and then whatever personal innocence that you have relative to, you know, he's never had, you know, you're a gigantic, strong, just miraculous man that has done right in all way, shapes, and forms, and you know, there's just elements to that's very triggering. But I do think that it's supremely important to wait for information to be gathered before any rush to judgment. But regardless, I know the feelings expressed to me are not are unsettling. So it's but two things did come from, you know, the adversity. Super proud of teammates being teammates, and super proud of our guys understanding the civic responsibility of a platform and intending to do right by it.
For the record, like, Tyreek Hill, not a good dude, okay? The other dude, Calais Campbell, from what I understand, is a very good dude. Having said that, in this situation, the cops are so overboard and so obviously the bad guy that it doesn't matter what Tyreek Hill has done in the past, okay? You can analyze that situation in terms of police brutality and not have to, like, pull the rap sheet and background of a black man, because those guys are not doing that because they're like, oh yeah, you beat your wife and broke your child's arm and that's why we're doing this to you. They're not doing that, okay? Matter of fact, cops probably do that at home anyway. So his background is completely irrelevant in the subject matter. I mean, I obviously will bring that up later, but you know, in analyzing the situation, on adequate terms, it's irrelevant. Here's what the South Florida Police Benevolent Association said. Before the Dolphins game yesterday, an incident occurred where Tyreek Hill was placed in handcuffs before being released. First, to be clear, at no time was he ever under arrest. He was briefly detained for officer safety after driving in a manner in which he was putting himself and others at great risk of danger. Okay? Upon being stopped, Mr. Hill was not immediately cooperative with the officers on scene who, pursuant to policy and for their immediate safety, placed Mr. Hill in handcuffs. Thank God for body cameras, dude. Because, like, listen, I'm so goddamn old at this point. I'm 33. So, you know, I remember a time when this shit wasn't readily available. I remember a time when under the Barack Obama administration, Jim Comey, okay, was the FBI director who literally said police body camera footages, police being required to have body cams is actually going to increase police brutality. It's going to be bad. It's actually going to be the reason for more police brutality to occur without any sort of real justification for it at all. So I remember a time when it wasn't readily available, that you couldn't send a Freedom of Information Act request to actually get this body camera footage with ease. Miami Cuban native. Many of my fellow Cubans have always been racist, but Trump basically gave them the go-ahead to be mask off and change. And the change has been actually terrifying, especially considering how many forget to run the top of the hour ad break at 1 o'clock Western time. I already ran it. Miami Cuban native. Once the situation was sorted out in a few minutes, Mr. Hill was issued 2 traffic citations and was free to leave. Okay. They placed Mr. Hill in handcuffs. Mr. Hill, still uncooperative, refused to sit on the ground and therefore was redirected to the ground. We saw the video, okay? We saw the video. He was redirected to the ground. You choked him from the back, dog. Get out of here. I hate these pieces so much. There's so much hatred I have in my heart, okay? God damn, dude. Oh, my Lord. And they do this all the time, okay? They do this all the goddamn time, for the record. And also, because of the additional amount of scrutiny, there's so much of a beautiful through line here with like Israel behavior. Ironic because, like, you know, the IDF does train American law enforcement. So maybe that's why they're so goddamn titled and behave in the exact same goddamn ways, for the record. Okay. Just something to consider here. Like the level of entitlement and just like the immediate lies that the police institutions and like they're protecting their institutions that protect police in instances where they're like behaving in this like irrational, violent manner, and the methods are identical to the IDF and identical to Israel in general. Oh, we didn't do anything. They deserved it. That's why it's so funny when people were trying to do that whole like Israel is anti-black, pro-Palestinians are anti-black. It's like, dude, it's identical. It's identical. And in some instances directly working with one another. It's collaborative. Okay. Just in, the Miami-Dade police officer who was placed on administrative duty after Tyreek Hill incident is Danny Torres. Torres is also on the board of directors of the South Florida Police Benevolent Association. I've learned he's been with the Miami-Dade Police Department for 27 years. Holy f***. If you look at his background, bro, oh my God. If he's that high up, you know his ass has killed a couple people at least. For the record, this has nothing to do with him being Cuban. Please, guys. Your race, your racial or your ethnic background is completely irrelevant in this conversation. It is, because black cops do this too. What the are you talking about? It is about being a cop, okay? That is the higher priority here, because it is a part of the job, a part of the culture, a part of the training. Do you see this part of the body camera footage?
I'm just being a black man, that's it. I'm just being black in America, bro. That's all it is.
We're dark too, brother. We're people of color too. Don't play like that.
I'm just being a black man in America, bro, in a nice car. That's it.
We're dark too, brother. We're people of color too.
That's it.
Yeah, immediately. Wasn't he like going 60 over the speed limit in a nice car? Who cares what color you are? That's going to get you pulled over. No, he wasn't going 60 over the speed limit. He was going 60. Not over the speed limit. Immediately, dude, the bootlicking mentality from cop lovers, undefeated, okay? Undefeated. Immediately, they're like, oh, well, well, let's just lie. Let's just sit here and lie to try and justify why this is a permissible act by the police. Every single time, dude. Oh, cops must be doing the right thing. He should have just followed the orders. God, it's just such pathetic bootlicking behavior. Matt Walsh again with the most deranged take. As we see yet again with the Tyreek Hill situation, the left's position is that a black man should be able to say and do literally anything he wants when confronted by police. and he can never be held responsible for what actually happens as a result of his own belligerence. Someone was saying you got to look at Charlie Kirk's tweet. You know you got to view on the world when you have sports Twitter disagreeing with you. Even those dumbasses know this is an abuse of power in the grossest way. Matt Walsh, Lamau. Yeah. The bootlegging is so bad, they're even telling cops they're wrong. As a retired chief, I will say that one officer escalated that pretty unnecessarily. I can absolutely see why he's on administrative leave. That's not how you handle that situation. He should have attempted to de-escalate by explaining why he needed him out of the car. Sorry, I disagree completely. There's no reason to tell anyone why. Give an order and it should be obeyed. This is part of what is wrong in America today. Everyone thinks they can just do what they want. It isn't the case and shouldn't be. Again, I'm a 20-year officer that just retired as a chief. I did not have one single personnel complaint on my file and not one excessive use of force complaint. I have plenty of experience with compliant and non-compliant individuals throughout my career. I don't really care. He was never going to comply. He was a dick from the first interaction. He had multiple units behind him telling me he didn't pull over right away. Did he have to be put to the ground? No, but Fafo, around and find out. Kids, turn off the car, roll down your window, keep your hands on the wheel, obey the officer's commands. If you don't, they will assume you're about to attack them. It's not that hard. 54,000 likes. Oh my God. This is a psyop to divide us racially in an election year because Kamala is polling poorly with black men, 100% manufactured. I like Tyreek Hill as an athlete, but if he didn't speed and he didn't roll up his window, this isn't a story. Is there ever an instance where cops are in the wrong? Can they just do whatever they want? I mean, the answer is yes, by the way. This is a rhetorical question. In the eyes of the mother Republicans, cops can never do wrong. Like they can just kill and get away with it, and they will absolutely justify whatever kind of violent and completely irrational behavior the police are engaging in, even if it's done to a figurehead that is even if it's done to a public figure. Okay? Public figure that they might even like, especially if they're black. There's just nothing they can do that will meet that metric of like, maybe this is a bridge too far. That's great, man. All right, let's watch
big developments
how
in the
mainstream media is covering
police
this.
stop of NFL superstar Tyreek Hill. Miami-Dade police released body cam footage from the officers who pulled over Hill's car for allegedly speeding before Sunday's game. It shows how quickly the Miami Dolphins player was grabbed and pulled to the ground and handcuffed. Jerika Duncan has more on the encounter that the Dolphins called maddening and heartbreaking.
You're speeding. Move forward.
The newly released footage shows a Miami-Dade police officer ordered Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill to pull over just outside Hard Rock Stadium Sunday.
Hey, don't knock on my window like that, man.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on?
Don't knock on my window.
Why don't you have your seatbelt
Knock
on?
on my window like that, though.
After handing the officer his license,
Talk to
Just
you.
get my ticket, bro, so I can go. I'm finna be late, gang. Do what you gotta do.
Hill then rolls his driver's side window back up while officers demand he keep it down.
Hey, keep your window down.
Don't tell me what.
Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car.
Then at least one officer swings open Hill's car door as at least two others force him to the ground.
Get out. Get out. Damn. Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew.
As he lies face down, one officer appears to have one knee on his back as he's
Dude, and when in contact with law enforcement, you should be asked of yourself, what can I control in this interaction being my own demeanor? Never give cops a reason to exploit you. If they do, they already had it in mind regardless of your behavior. That doesn't change the dynamic at all, brother. Okay? That's ridiculous. I hate that kind of servile attitude that people have. And there are literally people that routinely do this shit in my chat too. So they'll be like, oh, dude, well, he gave him lip. It's not like he refused to comply in any meaningful capacity. He just pulled his window up, okay? What do you mean? You think that warrants this kind of behavior? That's insane. Nah, that, dude. Oh, you should just always comply. And then sometimes, even then, they still want to kill you, and there's not really much you can do about it. But at least you complied. You can die knowing that you, did the right thing all the way to the last moment. Like, that's ridiculous. They should not, like, we're not in the business of, like, when I'm doing systemic analysis, I'm not in the business of like looking at the individual actions here. I'm looking at accountability measures, mechanisms of enforcement to ensure that this doesn't ever happen. Because a cop that does this publicly to a Dolphins player on the day of the Dolphins game, like 20 minutes before the game, is going to do that to random people on a daily basis. It's crazy. They're literally, I think you're wrong about this one, man. Can't roll tinted windows on cops. is just stupid. No, dude, you're stupid. And not only are you stupid, but behaving like a servile dog, okay? I'm sorry. It is ridiculous, dude. It is ridiculous. You think they know who he is? You think he's going to evade law enforcement? They know who he is. Like, why are we just robbing everything of the context in the situation? They know exactly who he is. He gave them his license. Even if he's not Tyreek Hill, when a person goes, here you go, sir, here's my license, and then rolls the window back up, do you think that the person is going to just like come out with a automatic machine gun and just start blasting cops? Why did they give the license then? Like, think. You think he's just going to roll the window up and then drive off?
It was only a few hours before the season's opening game. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was 1 block away from Miami's Hard Rock Stadium.
By the way, the reason why he probably rolled his tinted windows up, because, you know, logically speaking, I can make the assessment. I don't even know what his reasoning for it is, but I assume it was so that he doesn't get filmed. Okay, because all of the Dolphins fans are currently driving into the stadium. Okay, it's an embarrassing situation for everyone involved. The cops, the player, the franchise. So he probably was like, yeah, I rolled my window up so people didn't know that I was getting arrested before the goddamn game.
When he was stopped by police, he was pulled from his car, surrounded by multiple officers, thrown to the ground. A knee was put in his back, and he was handcuffed. Now, tonight, after public outcry, and a lot of it, the Miami Police Department is releasing body camera footage of the incident, and it is disturbing to watch. Take a look.
Hey, keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car.
Like, you're a human being, dog. Talk to this person to person. Okay? Like, if you're popping off like this, if this is your first reaction to another human being, like, because we intrinsically have this attitude where, like, cops are a figurehead of authority, and therefore there's no, like, line of communication where you can have a normal conversation, human to human, person to person. Everybody, no matter how leftist they are or whatever, genuinely has this like weird attitude about it. Okay? Because we have been primed into this expectation that like they're just not human. They're a natural phenomena. They are going to do whatever they want to do in this circumstance. They're human beings, dog. They have the same rights that you do. Okay? You have rights in this situation. And a lot of people have bludgeoned that out of their brains. Like, you can have a normal conversation. It's called de-escalation, okay? They're not wild animals. They're not feral animals. It's sad because even legal says, from the perspective of the law, doing anything against an officer's command, no matter what they are, from what I know, will make it harder to take any legal action or hell, procure any kind of legal defense in case they sue you. Yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit. And also, I don't necessarily agree either, okay? Because the compliance already occurred in this circumstance. The compliance was when he asked for his license and he gave the cops his license, okay? Rolling your window back up and then the cops having like an entitled attitude in this circumstance after he is already immediately pulled over, gives his license, is ridiculous. The cops are the ones who are escalating the situation. It's crazy that like our immediate expectation in this circumstance is just like, yeah, dog, they're just wild animals. We can't do anything about it. They're just rabid dogs.
As a matter of fact, get out of the car.
Give me that.
Get out of the car.
Give me that. Break that freaking window.
Get out of the car. Get out of the car right now. We're not playing this game. Get out.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
He also was getting out. That's the other thing. Like, he is complying every step of the way.
Get out. What part of that don't you understand? Hey, Drew, I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested, Drew. I'm getting out, bro. God damn, twin.
When we tell you to do something, you do it.
I'm getting
You understand?
out. I'm getting out,
You
bro.
understand? Not what you want, but what we tell you.
I'm getting
You're a little
out.
confused.
Now, about a minute after this, and once Hill was handcuffed, he was again forced to the cement.
Hold on, bro. I just had surgery on my knee. Bro.
That is, again, another fraction, okay? He states to the cop, who knows who he is, by the way, so like that makes it even crazier, that he has surgery on his knee, okay? Again, if this was still a random black man, okay, an accountant that has been pulled over, it's still completely unacceptable. You understand? Like, again, this is a human being talking to what I suspect is another human being. Okay? When a human being tells you, like, hey, man, like, I have a problem with my knee, like, I can't lay down like this, this behavior is completely unacceptable.
I just had surgery on my knee, bro. I just had surgery in your ears when we go there. Chill, bro.
Now tonight, Tyreek Hill speaking for the first time since that body camera video was released right here on CNN.
If I wasn't Tyreek Hill, worst case scenario, we would have had a different article. You know, Tyreek Hill, you know, got shot in front of Hard Rock Stadium.
The Miami Police Department says that they released this footage earlier than usual, quote, to reinforce the department's commitment to keeping the public informed. They've also placed one of the officers involved on administrative duties, that's important, while an investigation is being conducted. And the police union, they are defending the officers, saying that Hill was, quote, not
shocking,
immediately cooperating with the officers.
Do you think this is mainly a racism issue or a bruised ego issue? It's a bit of both. I think the race factors into how your ego is bruised. But yeah, I think it's a larger systemic problem beyond anything else, okay? It's not an accident that this shit happens on a daily basis 1,000 times a day in the United States of America. Okay, it all factors into this, but I think if you're going to look at like the largest share of responsibility of how we got here, it is directly because this is how police are expected to operate. And a lot of people love that. Okay, a lot of people demand it, and some people demand more of it, Republicans, and there is no mechanism of accountability. Because if there was some level of accountability, then they wouldn't be behaving like this. They do this kind of stuff. There is a culture of impunity, exactly. This is in the training, and ultimately they get away with it because most of the people that they do this to aren't Tyreek Hill on the way to the game, and they are operating in the exact same way that the only way that they know how to operate.
On scene who, pursuant to policy and for their immediate safety, placed Mr. Hill in handcuffs. Joining me now, Stephen A. Smith, the host of First Take on ESPN, is also the host of the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube. Stephen A., I have to know what your reaction was when you saw the body camera video, not just what we heard about it, but when you actually saw it.
And before people say like, oh, these are just like a couple bad apples, like, no, dude, there is at most a couple good apples, okay, in the entire bunch. The entire bunch is spoiled, okay? This is the training. This is the expectation. This is the culture. This is the legal structure. A legal structure that does not enforce any level of accountability for these people behaving this way, because that is the expectation. If this is how you train them, and then this is how you expect them to act, and then this is when they do act that way in the expected way, you don't actually punish them, because why would you? You want them to do this kind of thing. Then of course they're going to behave like this all the goddamn time. That's it. What's the expectation? That's why I always say, in my mind, okay, are there people who join the force with good intentions? Absolutely. Okay. I'm sure you know a couple people. I'm sure you've even tracked how those people have changed their attitude and their behavior over the course of like many, many years of being in the police force. Okay. People do. People absolutely join the police force with good intentions, with honest intentions. Why? Because that's how media reinforces policing. It says protect and serve on the side of their cars. It's like literally baked into the system. People think, oh, I'm going to join. I'm going to be a cop because I want to be a good guy. I want to stop bad guys. Okay. But then they are, the system is designed to take those guys and turn them into animals. Okay. And those who remain good guys in that process oftentimes get fired anyway. They either get fired or they quit. So that's what you need to understand here, okay? Like even if you know the nicest guy, okay, who's like, I want to be a cop for good reasons. Do you have anything to back up your claims? Like, which claims do you want me to back up? In terms of like police brutality being an expected outcome in most normal police procedural circumstances in the United States of America, as opposed to like any other nation on the planet, or that we have an entire culture of policing being like a good thing, a good institution, an institution that protects people, backed up by Hollywood and the media for understandable reasons. About the good guys getting forced out, yes, I do. I actually have I have a couple pretty I mean, if you Google police brutality Hasan good cops or whatever, you'll find it. I've covered this a bunch of times. Yeah, this is one of the most famous instances. I believe this is from 9 Minutes in Weirton. This is a vet who joins the police force afterwards, refuses to shoot someone who was trying to do a suicide by cop, and then he's fired. Because he was like, I see what was going on. I see what was happening. Stephen Mader, 25-year-old rookie officer with the Weirton Police Department, got the radio call from dispatch. Had a female stating she was at 119 Mary Avenue. She sounded hysterical, hung up the phone, would not answer on a call back. Weirton, a city of 20,000 in the state's northern panhandle, was quiet at that hour. It took Mader alone in his patrol car just over 3 minutes to get close to 119 Main. It's right here, the young man said. Why, what's up? The woman inside 119 Main called 911 again. It was 2:57. Her name was Bethany Gilmer. R.J. Williams, her ex-boyfriend and the father of their baby, had a gun. She told the dispatcher, but the gun was not loaded, she said. He'd taken the magazine out. He was drunk. He doesn't have a clip in the gun, Gilmer told the dispatcher. He said he was going to threaten the police with it so they would shoot him. Mader by then had gotten out of his patrol car. The only light came from nearby street lamps. Okay? He goes up. He's the first he's the first responding officer. He starts trying to talk to the guy, okay? Show me your Mader says. Why you got to cuss at me, Williams said. When Williams last showed his hands, a silver and black Smith & Wesson pistol rested in his right palm. His arm hung at the side. The gun pointed at the ground. He started to back up along a narrow sidewalk leading to the house. Mader drew his weapon and moved to take cover behind the car parked in front of 119 Main. Put the gun down, Mader said. I can't do that. I don't want to shoot you, brother, Mader said. Put the gun down. Just shoot me, Williams said. To Mader, Williams sounded choked up. The Smith & Wesson didn't move from his side. It was still pointing at the sidewalk. It was 2:58. Just shoot me, Williams said again. Second unit comes in, immediately blasts him. Okay? Immediately blasts him. Immediately. They fire the first responding officer for not shooting him. One of the most famous instances, of course, of a cop that did not fit in with the overtly violent culture, the trained to kill culture, the warrior culture that officers are trained around the entire nation, was a man by the name of Christopher Dorner. You might know him from memes online when people say, can't corner the Dorner. Okay? Can't corner Dorner. Christopher Corner Dorner. Chris Dorner was an interesting guy. Little wild. Okay? Notice there was a culture. He was a big rule guy. Maybe a little autistic about abiding by the rules. Notice there was racial discrimination happening in the department. Wanted to call it out. And they made his life living hell. So he wrote a manifesto and went after law enforcement in the state of California in a, dare I say, very aggressive manner. They lit him on fire in a cabin. Oh, also in the process of trying to find him, they actually shot up a pickup truck of a Hispanic family, mother-daughter, who were selling newspapers. Luckily, they survived, but they literally shot the absolute living out of that pickup truck, thinking that Dorner was in it. The truck literally wasn't even the truck that Dorner was driving around in, by the way. What's with the whole thing trying to be edgy using autistic in that way? Can't he just be strict? Cops ended up shooting 3 bystanders total while looking for him. And no, it's not even a joke. He literally was autistic. What do you mean? Overall, they tracked them down into a cabin in the woods and lit the cabin on fire. Of course, they were saying that he was targeting their families. Yeah, there was another LAPD cop that got killed in training by fellow officers for whistleblowing that happened like a couple years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago. Plenty of stories about whistleblowers within policing and the way that they are dealt with. And even though these stories are in the margins, okay, even though these stories are in the margins, overall, the culture of enforcement and the culture of violence across the board is so prevalent that you rarely ever even have stories of naysayers in general. Okay? Oh, there was actually a weird Dorner update. New details emerge after Christopher Dorner gun found in the hands of Venezuelan gang. I briefly saw a headline for this. Let's continue.
I remember a phrase you used earlier today, and it stuck with me. The ease of dehumanization. What was your reaction?
Well, I still feel that way from the standpoint that, it was excessive. It was completely unnecessary on the part of the officers, particularly and specifically when he was handcuffed. And so I stand by everything that I said earlier this morning on ESPN's First Take and, of course, my YouTube show, Stephen A.
A Cap for Cutie. Thank you for the 10 tier 1 gift to subs.
Smith Show. I meant what I said when I said it was just unnecessary. And it just speaks to the ease with which black men can be dehumanized, because you've seen situations where people who happen to not be black have had issues with the police. And yes, they may end up in handcuffs and they be taken away, similar to what happened to golfer Scotty Scheffler in Kentucky a few months ago in May. But he was detained. He was put in handcuffs. He was detained. He was taken away. He was arrested. That certainly was not the case with Tyreek Hill, but in the same breath, to forcibly throw him to the ground face first, to know that there's 90+ degree weather and you're putting him on that asphalt and in terms of that heat, and then afterwards he's standing up, you already have him cuffed.
What are ways to prevent this from happening? An entirely different set of standards where you, again, similar to Israel, where you hold the letter of the law, like you hold police officers accountable to abide by the standards set by the law. If protecting and serving is your immediate responsibility, then you should do that. It's the same principle behind like what America should do in terms of giving unlimited weapons transfers to Israel. Hold up the law. There's existing law here. Okay, the Leahy law is the standard. If the country that we're giving weapons to is violating human rights, Israel certainly is, then you're no longer allowed. It's illegal to give weapons to Israel. Just like if your immediate attitude here is to escalate and harm someone when your job is to protect them, then yeah, you're gonna get fired. You should actually not only get fired, but also go to jail. Accountability. It's that simple. Accountability, a mechanism of enforcing said accountability. Okay, having civil leaders and whatnot be responsible, like some force that is outside of the like other law enforcement, taking a look at these circumstances, entirely changing the way that police are trained to force them to de-escalate, especially at the top of the hour when there's a 3-minute ad break. The greatest de-escalatory mechanism there, of course, is subscribing. Internal Affairs, Omni Valor. Wait, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's why I said no, not other members of law enforcement, okay? Not other members of law enforcement. Internal Affairs is ass. It's other cops. It's police policing other police. It just obviously doesn't, it demonstrably doesn't work because that exists already. Testifying is a federal offense, but cops never get tried for it, even though they're caught red-handed. They're caught in the court of law on record. Yep. It's so goddamn commonplace, as a matter of fact, that like there is a term for it. Like you said, it's called testifying. When you lie on the stand. I don't know if you already answered this, but is the policeman not going to be fired or given some sort of punishment? Surely something must happen. Incredibly doubtful, especially considering how high up he is in the Fraternal Order of Police, or rather the Police Benevolence Association in South Florida. So very, very, very unlikely, even though this is an incredibly high profile incident, he will at most get like some kind of like administrative leave or something. Guys, this nation is so that the cop who shot and killed Daniel Shaver in that hallway in that hotel, I believe in Arizona, is permanently getting paid by the state for PTSD, okay? For post-traumatic stress disorder that he got for shooting and killing Daniel Shaver, who was on his hands and knees begging not to be assassinated, with a gun that he had, his own personal gun, that on the side had the words etched, "You're okay?" He brought his own gun to work and he shot and killed this man. And then not only did he get away scot-free, okay, his AR-15 ejection port cover said "get exactly." Not only did he get away scot-free, he also is still being paid by the Arizona State for post-traumatic stress disorder because he was really sad he shot and killed Daniel Shaver. That's the way that the law currently works. Now, you tell me if it's appropriate.
You have other officers around, and to feel the need to throw him to push him and shove him to the ground that way, to sit him down that way, was completely unnecessary, and it speaks to the excessive behavior of the police officers. But in fairness to police officers everywhere, and specifically those police officers there, when this latest body cam footage was released and we saw it, let me remind everybody, they did ask him to roll down his window, not one, not twice, but at least 3 times. Then they also asked him to get out of the car. In each instance, there was hesitation on his part and a lack of cooperation. So when they say he was uncooperative, you can see why they feel that way. Now, again, I want to emphasize, that's no...
God, Stephen A. Smith, like, how are you like this all the time? I don't know how he, like, mathematically arrives at the worst point, even when he's in the process of making a good point. Oh my Lord, dude. It is nutty. I mean, he's conservative. He just is. He's a sports guy you expect. Yeah, I mean, he is conservative.
No reason for them to go as far as they did. But in the same breath, him saying that he didn't know what he did and that he didn't do anything wrong, well, that's not entirely true.
I don't understand why it's a bad point. It's a bad point because nothing that you have to judge the actions that the perpetrator took by the retaliation that the police brought on him. Okay? Action and reaction. It's completely unacceptable.
Black men in America, I will remind everybody of what I'm sure you would agree with, Laura. You roll down all your windows. You put your hand on that steering wheel. The last thing you want to do, especially if you have tinted windows, is leave your windows up when the police officer is telling you to put it down. Because when you don't do something like that, we have seen and we have had a reason to sense that the worst possible thing could happen. Tyreek Hill did not do that. So when they say he was uncooperative, they did have a point with the latest body cam footage we saw.
And yet, Stephen A. Smith, and you articulated a few points. I'm going to address them in turn. One, on the idea of cooperation. There are many people who would say there are instances of people fully cooperating, doing nothing wrong. And the lesson that is imparted around Black and brown people around this country is there is no escaping those officers who endeavor to commit excessive force against you. That's from not all officers, but those who endeavor to do so. And the second point is, it strikes a lot of people that this was an ego issue, not one of force. I'm talking about for the officers. Officers are entitled to use force to repel a force used against them. But it seemed as though what they were reacting to was an attitude that they perceived, and they were reacting to the fact that he was slow in his efforts. This is not the same thing, though, as one feeling that they actually are in danger, and that's the criteria.
Well, that is the criteria. And you being a...
For me, I feel like hating Jason Whitlock as much as he does and then doing this is never not going to be funny for me. I don't know. Like, this man despises Jason Whitlock. And it's just so funny that he still has this like, well, you know, it is what it is. Cops are going to behave like this. You can't do anything about it. Why? Because Jason Whitlock is a white supremacist. He's a black sports commentator who also happens to be a straight up white supremacist. And also Stephen A. Smith's like mortal enemy.
Lawyer by profession, you would know better than me. I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said. I completely support it 1,000%. And as a black man in America who's been pulled over, who's been cuffed, who's been detained, who's been thrown in jail for a traffic violation. Yes, it happened to me in Troy, Michigan many years ago. I know exactly what you're talking about, and you're absolutely 1,000% on the money.
I guess they're not so far off after all. Tyreek Hill knows there's no standard for him. If he knew there would be pushback, he wouldn't claim that he just ignored the police. There's no demand for intelligent behavior for black men. He's just going a little bit harder. There's no amount of there's just no reason to defend the cops in this circumstance.
But that's not what we're talking about here, because we're not acting as if the officer is right. Even though they made a point when they said he was a bit cooperative, it still doesn't negate the reality that their physical behavior was completely unnecessary. How they acted towards Calais Campbell and Jonnu Smith, his teammates, was completely unnecessary. Even though they didn't identify themselves as his teammates, they identified themselves as his friend. It was all unnecessary. It was all beyond the pale. It was all completely unnecessary, and in one officer's case, it was definitely excessive. But what we're talking about is the importance of black men being able to go home, being able to avoid putting themselves in a position where you can have a rogue police officer whose ego might be a bit compromised, who has a temper tantrum because they're dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with, and they may be taking it out on a patron or somebody, just a regular citizen. We understand what the dilemma is. So what I'm saying is, when Tyreek Hill looks into the cameras and he says, I did nothing wrong, are you saying that you would do exactly what you did and you would encourage everyone else to do exactly what you did? I would challenge that.
Americans is a perma-cuck, bro. That's it. If you're wondering why media is perma-cucked, or if you're wondering why your fellow citizens don't understand that this kind of behavior is completely irrational, look no further than CBS Mornings' accurate, fair, and balanced reporting on the subject matter. Now imagine, remember what you said? Oh, is this because they're Cuban and he's black or whatever? Remember that. That's a black man. That's deliberate. Okay, they put a black man there to specifically say these words to defend the cops.
Unfortunately, led to a point where he had to be pulled out of the vehicle, handcuffed, and put on the sidewalk while a lot of different vehicles were driving by, and probably turned to a little bit of an embarrassment moment for him.
Hill recounted that moment in a CNN interview Monday night.
I wasn't moving fast because, I got injuries. You feel me? I got things that I go through. I guess the officers, they felt like I wasn't doing it on their timing, but I was doing it. But, man, I'm still kind of shell-shocked from it, man. I'm embarrassed.
For CBS Mornings, I'm Jerika Duncan.
It seems like it escalated so fast. And oftentimes we talk about these situations happening, and the question that I keep asking myself is, why isn't there better de-escalating tactics that these officers can use? Because it can spill over into something deadly, as we've seen before.
I don't know. I look at that tape, and I wish they both would have handled it differently, to be honest with you. I think that when the officer, he first said to the officer, don't knock on my window, which instantly sets him off. He rolls up the window, which also sets him off, when really they both could have handled it differently. But the officer is supposed to be the professional and should figure out a way to de-escalate the situation. But I look at that tape, I feel very differently.
I hate mainstream media so much, bro. This is why, chap. If you're wondering how people develop this kind of insane, completely irrational behavior, how they get to this point, it's because you literally have people saying this, and that's supposed to be mainstream media. That's supposed to be the objective news coverage and commentary on the matter. It's ridiculous, dude. You have to look at the action and you have to look at the reaction. Okay, look at the action, look at the reaction. The responsibility is on the hands of the party that is the public servant. Okay, that literally can take your life away in any given moment. That bar is supposed to be so high. These people that have unimaginable power, unchecked power, should not be wielding that willy-nilly. That's crazy. But yes, mainstream media is constantly creating permission structures within which police can act with impunity. And that is precisely the reason why so many people that you know will then repeat that without even thinking about it, without thinking about like what that means, okay? What that spells for them, what kind of like power structure they are defending. Friend of the show, Dan Levitard, this is what he said.
You guys, though, is legitimately, are you allowed to be surprised by this? Because it feels like if you're surprised by this video, you have not been paying attention at all to what's been happening in America as we head to another voting cycle. Like, I really asked the question sincerely. Are you allowed? Like, hey, white people, like they ran Kaepernick, they ran him out of the league, like for saying, hey, white people. Like, I don't know how surprised you're allowed to be by this video, because Rodney King was a long time ago. Like the lessons of Rodney King. What is that? Is that late 80s?
I think so. Yeah, early 90s. We should also outline, it's not just white people, it's law enforcement officials. There's a prejudice with law enforcement officials in this video, from what we can tell, mostly Hispanic police officers. There's a huge issue with policing in this country. There's a huge issue with policing in Miami-Dade County, and I'm hopeful this will bring about change.
Because they're cops. That's the higher priority. When you're a cop, like, your own personal background, your ethnic background, like that is entirely irrelevant to the subject matter. You know what I mean? You're a cop. That's it. That's what you are in that situation. You're behaving in a cop-like way. Isn't it important that if some random black dude, he could have died? Black people tell their children not to be subservient because it's the reality. You can get shot for having an attitude, not because they like the cops. Yeah. But if we're analyzing the situation, if we're looking at the situation from the perspective of like what's right and what's wrong, I'm never going to victim blame. Okay, that person is a victim of police brutality. Okay, that's what it is. I'm not gonna sit here and victim blame. Here's Bomani Jones. I love Bomani Jones.
Sunday, kind of minding my own business, getting back into swing of things.
This is the last thing I'm gonna talk about before we get to Israel and some other shit. I gotta go. Hold on 1 second.
Cops was messing with Tyreek Hill. Didn't really know. Somebody just told me that the cops was messing with Tyreek Hill. I ran a search. The next thing I know, Tyreek Hill is on his back, on the ground, handcuffed, and the cops is standing over him. Now, when you start talking about Tyreek Hill and the cops being involved, that's one of those where you walk up and you need to be like, hold on. Somebody take me back to the very beginning, right? Like, there's no telling exactly how we wound up here, except it's his Lamborghini is down the street from the stadium, and now he's face down on the ground, handcuffed, and it didn't pass the smell test, what wound up happening there. Then Calais Campbell, who one of the largest humans in the history of humanness. He shows up because he sees his man's getting messed with by the cops, and he comes in and is trying to get some answers, trying to defuse the situation. He winds up being in handcuffs. And then eventually all parties involved were taken out of their handcuffs, and then they went to the game, and then they played in the game, and then the Dolphins won the game, and Tyreek Hill scored a touchdown. And when Tyreek Hill scored the touchdown, he did a thing where he acted like he was handcuffed, and he had somebody come unhandcuff him, which, I mean, I guess you have to do something, I suppose. Like, I don't know. Look, man, I don't know what to tell that man to do after that situation under those circumstances or whatever it was, right? Like, I don't know what exactly there is to say. There was a couple of interesting things that came out of it. One, Sean, do we have this Tyreek talking before the media after the game, kind of giving his side of what went down with the cops?
Right now, so I've been trying to figure that out too. Man. Right now, I'm still trying to put it all together. So I'm not gonna give you a version that I still don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? But I do want to be able to use this platform to say, like, what if I wasn't Tyreek Hill, bro? Like, worst case scenario, because it's crazy. Like, I want to be a cop one day. I got a state trooper hat, all that, so I got a lot of respect.
Stop right there. Did he just say he want to be a cop?
And he has his state trooper's certification or something.
Hey. He said he got a hat. He said he got a state trooper hat. He got this motherfucker like Smokey the Bear talking about he want to be a cop. And like, I saw Cocaine Cowboys I know that back in the day in Miami, it could be very easy for you to be a police officer. But Sean, I'm going to just throw it out there, brother. I don't think Tyreek Hill could pass the background check.
I think Shaq as a cop makes somewhat sense, but Tyreek Hill, I don't see it lining up.
Yeah, I just don't think. I think that once they start asking some questions, it becomes a little difficult for them. Yeah, okay. So that is what he said. Now we have a clip from Javon Holland, and I always, before we get to Javon's clip, I always say this. I talked to Javon in 2020 when I was doing a story about the United movements of college athletes. The Pac-12 United, all that stuff that was going on, where they were trying to unionize in some form or fashion and get what they was looking for. And I can't tell you how impressed I was by this dude when he was 21 years old, or however old he was then. I was kind of blown away by how impressive he was. But anyway, this is what he had to say after the game.
Before the game. Yeah, that was crazy. I was stretching and I seen on the TV, bro got arrested. And then I seen the clip, cop kicked him or something like that. It was crazy. So that's got to get handled. You know what I'm saying? Excessive force on a black man, that's not uncommon. It's a very common thing in America. So I think that needs to be addressed at a countrywide level. So yeah, I don't think that shit is cool at all. But it's not unnatural or not uncommon for cops to do that type of shit, especially the black man. So that needs to be addressed for sure.
And I appreciated him making that point as directly as he made that point. This is also where you remind everybody kind of the contradiction of, remember Stephen Ross? Stephen Ross was the one that was really trying to get them boys to stop kneeling, their owner. And Stephen Ross is definitely on the Trump team. That's his ball game. But he also runs this this organization called Rise that's supposed to be helping cut down on the racism in sports, And I heard what Holland had to say right there. And it just wanted me to get back up and ask the question, hey, do you remember when we used to care about the police beating people up and killing them? You remember that? Because it used to be a really big thing. It dawned on me. August 9th.
Bro, did you hear he wants to be a cop? Wait, who? Tyreek Hill said he wants to be a cop? I mean, that tracks with his background. That tracks with his priors. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I don't want to come across like I'm victim blaming in this circumstance, but not exactly surprising.
Of this year was the 10th anniversary of Mike Brown being killed in Ferguson, Missouri. So yesterday is 10 years and 30 days away from that moment. And we've had the Kaepernick situation that went on in between and everything else. But from the way that we are acting about this, because I find that by and large, the way that I've seen the commentary about this in sports media go had a lot more to do with football than anything else. It was almost treated in that uncomfortable way that you were treated when Kobe Bryant would go to court and then come back and score 35, right? It became almost part of the narrative of the sports stuff. But let me tell you something. Calais Campbell, by my estimation, risked his life to go inquire what was going on there. And you know why I say he risked his life to go inquire what was going on there? Because that dude is 6'8" and 300 and something pounds. And my first thought would be when Snuffleupagus gets rolled up, they was gonna lay his big ass down. That was my number one thought there. That is would be terrifying. That big dude, that's terrified. And he come over there with that voice, hey, what's going on over here? I was scared to death. And hearing that something could easily wind up happening to him, because those are what the stakes are. And we had all these discussions about what the stakes were. And we had all this talk for all this time about police violence, generally and specifically against black people. But we had all this talk about this. It is my understanding that the numbers around those things are roughly the same. They're roughly the same. We had George Floyd died 4 years ago, and that incident, which took place around, it was a little, I want to say it was, May, and then Jacob Blake was in August. But anyway, we had the George Floyd situation in 2020, which was largely, it was clearly about police brutality, but as many people have documented and discussed in the aftermath, that the concessions that people managed to receive in the midst of all that outrage in 2020 It wasn't about police brutality. It was about things that happened and went down at your middle class office. You know? So I get back to the question, do we still care about the police roughing people up? And if we do still care about police roughing people up, like, what are we supposed to do at this point? Because what seemed to happen was people just kind of ran out of energy. A lot of people ran out of energy. And this big one that you can't lose sight of, a lot of the more visible people at the front of this came into a lot of money. There's no way around that. But I really stopped, like, as this happened, and it made me stop and think back to 10 years ago, what a major thing something like this would have been, and how the sports media at that time was very well equipped to have people get on television and get on everything else and talk about what went on. And we were talking about it on these sorts of macro levels. Now, I think a few things happened. One, I think especially after COVID, people's capacity for outrage and their energy for it is a lot lower, and they don't really have it in them to dial it up and be charged up, at least not about things that matter. You can definitely get charged up about the bullshit topic du jour on the internet. I definitely see that people have the energy to do that one. I don't think they have the energy really to get invested into things that like really matter anymore. But it was hard to ignore the difference in the way that we would treat such a thing. And this, again, this is a Hall of Fame football player being stopped on the way to a game. Maybe it'd be...
By the way, this is something I've talked about quite a bit with like other members of the media when they interview me and stuff. And I think for a lot of young people during COVID, they had the energy, they had the momentum, and they saw nothing. Mass demonstrations stopped dead in their tracks with no concessions made for the reasonable demands. And they were put in the crosshairs as though they were spoilers for the election. And I think after that, they were like, all right, I'm totally checked out of the political process. I did everything right. I voted. I protested. I voted. Nothing happened. I don't even think it's like I can now go back to not paying attention. I think it's more so for a lot of people who went out to those protests. They were like, their expectation was that like the needle would move in this direction, in this reasonable direction. And in this duopoly, our politicians on the liberal side straight up said, our politicians on the liberal side turned around and said, no, you are the real enemy. These defund the police protesters. They are the real problem, not the police. So why should anybody ever do anything?
Treated differently, and we'd look at it differently if it had been something that stopped him from actually being able to compete. I'm not sure. Maybe we'd go about it a little bit different if the person getting hemmed up by the cops was a little bit more of a sympathetic figure. I think that all those things maybe go into it, but I think it is hard to look at this and not stop and look back and be like, we kind of gave up. We did. Even with the Kaepernick discussion, after a point, the Kaepernick discussion stopped being about police brutality and became about Colin getting his job back, which really wasn't the point ever in this, right? So I'm not saying this with but so much judgment, because I'm not out here talking about the cops and what they're doing in the ways that I did at that time either, right? I feel like I kind of read the room and realized that I wasn't going to be heard anymore, that the capacity to do it was gone. So I could understand lots of reasons that lots of people would have dialed it back if they so decided. But I think we need to really get engaged.
The Democratic Party said the only vote forward is the guy who wrote the crime bill and his vice president who used to be a cop after mass protests all around the planet, not just in the United States of America, everywhere else. How the do you expect people to turn around and be like, well, I still have hope in this system. You did everything right. You did everything right. And what did you get? What do you have to show for it? Nothing. Maybe criminal record, as a matter of fact. If you got arrested at any of these protests.
In a certain measure of introspection about a lot of this, man. Like what it is that we care about, what it is that we don't care about, and how we just kind of stopped caring about this. How somehow this stopped being a thing that was worth our collective time and energy. Because it's all still going down. They still messing with us. They still jamming us up. They still doing all of the things. We're just not as mad about it anymore. What's up with that? The NFL is back, which means you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your...
Oh, my God. Damn it, Bomani Jones. Why you got to do that to me? All right.